Hi everyone, how you going? We'll just wait for the notification to come up. So I've got a couple of updates. We'll just wait for a couple of minutes. Wait for Facebook to do its thing. Oh, what a day. What a day. Oh dear. Okay. So I've got a couple of updates. Mahalia's sort of relaxed a bit, which is really good. Thank you guys for yesterday's effort. That was brilliant. We got her rent paid for at least 2 weeks. We'll see what happens in a fortnight's time. The next thing to do is let Mahalia off the card. Okay? Hashtag let Mahalia off the card. Because after last night's phone call, as far as the department's concerned, they've mended the issue. They've fixed the problem. They've resolved the problem, which is far from it, because they haven't resolved the problem of not being able to buy food, not being able to buy school needs, not being able to pay school fees, not being able to get on the bus, not be able to do anything in her town. They have not resolved the problem, right? So we're going to start hashtag get Mahalia off the card. Okay. So I've got another story that's just come in as well of a young person who has just moved to Brisbane, okay, from the Hinkler region. So moved to Brisbane 4 to 5 weeks ago from the Hinkler region. And last Friday, this young person was put on the cashless debit card, even though she's not in the trial site, she's in Brisbane. So her housing rental limit has been rejected, then approved, then rejected, time and time again. Right? Her parents have stepped in and they're struggling to pay her rent. Because if she can't get the housing limit increased from $0 to $340 a fortnight, she can't pay her rent. Her parents are scared that she'll be evicted from her unit and put on ticker. We simply can't afford, they can't afford to pay her rent for her each week, plus their own rent and expenses. Plus they still have 4 boys at home, all right, and their own bills and school fees to pay as well. And now they're also looking for a rental because their owners want to move back to their property. They're fearing that all of them will end up homeless. All right. Now this young person moved to Brisbane to be closest to a specialist because she has medical needs and a disability, but she's on independent youth allowance rate. Okay. She's not on disability. So therefore, she got hammered with the card, even though she just moved away from the region. All right. They're trying to get her a DSP, but that's going to take a long time. The parents are beside themselves, can't understand how Services Australia are refusing to lift her housing limit and not letting her pay rent. And yes, they're trying to opt out because they can't afford to pay the rent for her as well as their own rents. So, sorry. Here we go again. Ding, ding. Yeah, so it's another one we're going to have to fight for as well. This is crazy. I have given the parent I'm talking to all of the information of who to ring and what to do. And yes, we're going to fight hard because this is just cruel. So this young person moved to Brisbane, and it's basically as soon as they this girl uploaded her rent certificate, bang, she got put on the card straight away. So she got put on the card last Friday. But she's living in Brisbane. And if this doesn't get resolved, she's going to end up, this is her first rental, she's 18 years of age. Right? But she moved there to be closer to a specialist, which is fair enough. I mean, you know, there's only so much you can do constantly travelling from this region backwards and forwards to medical all the time. And it's really, really difficult. Okay? When she was put on, when she got her youth allowance independent, there was no mention at all that she was going to be put on the card. No mention. They didn't tell her anything. Right? When she moved and she uploaded her lease for her rent assistance, bam, text message from Services Australia, we're going to call you on a private number. And boom, on the card, and there you are. Right? This is getting ridiculous. And the only way we're going to stop this is to, every time this happens, is expose it. And get it out to the general public. This is not right. I mean, just in this week alone, I've had 1, 2, 3. This is the 4th person who can't pay rent. Right? This is also the 2nd person who's being put back on the card or put on the card who is out of region. We have a lady in the southwest coast of New South Wales who fought for over a year to get off the card because she was in Brisbane when she got the card. It was only because she was in Bundaberg at the beginning of 2019, just before the card rolled out, that she moved down to Brisbane, and then she got the card 7 months later, which was ridiculous. It took her over a year to get off of it. And then they rang her up last week and said, oh, sorry, you were incorrectly taken off the program, and we're putting you back on it. And she's in Shoalhaven in New South Wales. She will be the only person there, much like Mahalia. They keep doing this to these people, you know what I mean? And that woman's a single mum with 4 kids. Yeah, so, hang on just a second, hang on. Yeah, so it's not an isolated incident. They're doing this to a lot of people. And if this lady's posted part of her story in the Hinkler group a few days ago, and I mentioned some of it there. But she's just posted it in another group, and I've just added a comment to that group that if anybody has been evicted due to being on the IndyCard and they couldn't pay their rents, to let me know, because we need to know, they just won't pay. They won't give, I don't know what her lease agreements is or whatever like that, but, oh, this is ridiculous. This is a kid's first rental, right? And she should be on a disability support pension, but they've got to fight for that. Prior to going on to Youth Allowance Independent through her mum's payment, she was on youth disability. So this has got to be changed. It's just, we just got to keep fighting for these people, you know what I mean? We'll keep fighting for these people. So, hashtag, get Mahalia off the card. All right, that's what we're going to start with. And then as I progress with this new case, I can't put a name at the moment, and I won't know more details till Monday. And I want to be able to talk to the family properly before we go further, but I've got consent to share their story at the moment. Yeah, it's just getting beyond a joke, and they're making so many people homeless. In a homeless crisis where they cut the federal funding for homeless services, they cut the federal funding for shelters, right? It's deliberate. It is deliberate. I swear this is deliberate to put as many poor people on the streets as possible, because it's just becoming so blatantly obvious. Do you know what I mean? We don't run on the American system where if you're in welfare housing like they are in America and the rent's paid every 28 days. We don't have that here. And I'm sick to death of this 28-day cycle, and it has to fit into their little box. And if your rent is set up in any different way, no, we're not going to pay it. We refuse to allow you to transfer the money. So, yeah, we need to get this sorted. Deborah Douglas says, are we sending this to the Labor Party? Yeah, I ring up Anthony Chisholm's office all the time. I ring up the senators all the time. I let them know what's going on. Don't worry, we let them know what's going on. Yes, I would love some more verbal reassurances from Labor, but we got what we got at the moment. They voted against the CDC. They don't want the CDC. But we need to work on that. And we need to make sure we get the change of government so that we can then influence them to change policies. Because they can't do anything until they're in the government seat. Okay? They're not in government. Right? Yep, they can speak up, and that would be really nice. But at the end of the day, we've got to get them into the government first and then make sure they change the damn policies. You know, that's the bottom line, you know. Yeah, so anyway, I'm going to go and I'll talk to you guys later. I'll keep you in the loop. Remember, hashtag Mihaela off the card. You know what I mean? Get Mihaela off the card. Can't do a class action lawsuit. We don't have $500,000. We don't have a parliamentary member who's going to open up that class action. There's no point of law that can be fought on this at this time, right? We don't have the money for a QC, and so far this is legal. This is in law, and unless you've got a point of law that you can fight this on and a spare $500,000, we can't do it. You know, so we have to assist people in this situation to go other ways through community legal, get as much assistance as they can, you know, through welfare rights organisations, Basics Rights Queensland, and that sort of thing. Put in complaints, appeal their opt-out rejections, take it to the AAT, report to Australian Financial Complaints Authority, the Ombudsman, ASIC, whatever, and get loud. Come out in public, get loud. Go to the media, right? That's what people need to do, is get loud so that the public can understand. George Mason says, let's crowdfund the 500K. Mate. How? Oh dear. We've been here 6 years and we have not been able to get one legal firm to stand up. Not one. Okay, because this is in law. This is not like Robodebt, which was unlawful. This is in law. It's been assented and passed. Okay? Oh dear. Anyway, not to worry. Hashtag get Mihaela off the card. All right? It's got to end. We've got to stop the card. And we've got to stop this happening to so many people. Somebody said contact her local MP. Hang on a second. I'll just add that. Somebody said, anyway, George Mason, the majority of people on our pages are on job seeker, youth allowance, disability support pensions. They just don't have the money to fundraise $500,000, and you can't do the class action because you need a QC and you can't get one. They won't do it unless there's a point of law to be argued on. There is no point of law to be argued on at this stage. Okay? Morrison Blackburn won't help. Slater and Gordon won't help. Gordon Legal won't help. And they're the top guns. So, anyway, stop distracting me about class action that we can't have, that we've known for 6 years, that we've been going over and over and over and over. Whereas all we can do is fight for card holders to help them get through stuff, and some get off, and try and get more people off and get this program stopped. Right? You know, I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to go. That's just frustrating me, that is, because it's like I've been here for 6 years. I've rang so many lawyers. I've tried to get so much help from lawyers, and I've always got the same brick wall. A, I'm not a card holder. B, they can't do anything about it because they can't go up against Social Security and the federal government because they don't do that. You know, the only reason why Robodebt got through, basically, is for 2 people that managed to get through a Victorian legal system, and get it into court, and they got paid out straight up because the government didn't want it going to court. And then Bill Shorten was the one that raised the class action. But you have to have a political party to do that. We don't have a political party in power or in government to do that. All right? And they were able to do it because robo-debt was unlawful. You know, don't you think that if it had been able to be done in the last 6 years, somebody would have done it? And this is what we can't seem to get. Somebody would have done it by now, if it was possible. Somebody would have fundraised. Somebody would have done it. I'm sure they would have. You know? So, we fight. And we fight, and we fight, and we fight. Okay? And yesterday, as a result of us fighting, Mahela was able to pay her rent. And we keep fighting to get her off the card because she still can't buy food or do any of her school stuff or provide for any of the things that her kids need at school, school uniform, school fees, ride the bus and stuff like that. So we need to keep going, you know what I mean? You know? So Gail Masinga says, I haven't heard anything from Labor about the CDC card either. Well, they put it up that they're against it. They're not, and they didn't vote for it last time. They tried to stop it. We had the numbers. It was Sterling Griff and Centre Alliance that stuck the knives in everybody's back, all right? But if we don't change this government, all right, and we need the Labor government to take over, Greens are not going to hold power. I'm sorry, that's just reality. They don't... A Greens member is not going to be able to knock Keith Pitt off his seat. I'm sorry. It's just not possible in our region, in so many regions, right? If we don't change this government, then we're just going to be stuck with an LNP government. Because if the votes are all going to be split away to make sure Labor doesn't get those votes, you will get an LNP government all over again. Right? That's my opinion. And I don't want that. I am absolutely terrified. Right? Absolutely terrified. We must have a change of government. And the way to beat this is ALP 1, Greens 2. Right? We need the ALP in the House of Reps. We need the Greens in the Senate. Okay? We need more of both. And we need to get rid of One Nation and whoever else who will feed LNP the votes. Simple as that. We can't afford this kind of ideology to go on for another 4 years. It's going to destroy the country, not just us poor people, everything. Because they're not looking after any of us. Aged care. Look at the mess. How many have died? Robo-debt. How many died? Cashless debit card. How many have died? They're not even... They're trying to just make that go away altogether. Right? Yeah, the list is just too long as to what they've destroyed in this country. They're handing over $19,000 a minute, right, to the fossil fuel magnates. $19,000 a minute. Do you know that's more than some of us here get in a year? And in some cases, it's more than double what some of us on these pages get in a year. Right? Okay? We need to change government. And the focus should be the enemy, not tic-tac, tic-tac-tac. No more infighting between Greens and ALP and infighting in the parties. The focus should be get rid of the LNP. Right? And then work together to build a better country for everyone. So, anyway. Look. I have always sat apolitical. I don't belong to either party. Okay? But my opinion, I don't want to live with another Liberal government. Every time I've lived under a Liberal government, I've struggled. Right? Simple as that. The first time round under the Howard government, I starved to feed my daughter. You know what I mean? I lost my house under his government. I became homeless under his government. as a single parent on disability, I wasn't even on Job Seeker or Newstart or whatever it was then, but I struggled. And then when they got back in this time, everything's gone up. The price of living's gone up. Everything. Everybody's struggling. Trickle up, rot, kill the roots and the tree dies, yeah? I call it trickle up and piss down on everybody. That's what I call it, because that's what they're doing. They're sucking the life and soul out of this country. All they're doing is taking every dollar for their mates and their rorts and their contracts, Indu mates and Indu contracts and stakeholder rates. When that money could be going into social services, it could be going into raising the rate and lifting people out of poverty. No, give it to Indu. In the Northern Territory, shut down women's domestic violence and healing services that only asked for $1.2 million, but not $44 million for Indu to roll out the cashless debit card and shut down the DV service and healing centres. Right? I am sick to death of this ideology, and LNP have to go. And irrespective of who I would like to vote for, I'm not going to risk my vote being wasted, okay, for the greater cause. That's the bottom line. I'm not going to risk it. My vote is not going to go to an independent who can't get enough votes to knock my local member off his perch. My vote has to go with the majority chance of knocking my local member off his perch. Right? In my case, it's Lou O'Brien. We need to shift Lou O'Brien. And for the people in Hinkler, they need to shift Keith Pitt. Think about it logically. Okay? Could a Greens or an independent get enough votes to get Keith Pitt off his perch? No. So you need to go with the ones that can. This government, the LNP, don't care about us, they don't care about your kids, and they don't care about your parents or your grandparents. Right? But they have their little sleazy goings on, and they're untouchable, right? The reprehensible so-called honourable members, the stuff that they've been pulling 20, 30 years ago, we wouldn't even be here. We would have been having an election by now, because just the whiff of an alleged rape would have made a member stand down and an election called. Andrew Laming's bullshit would have been, you're gone. There's a by-election. Do you know what I mean? But they're all Teflon coated. This is all a rort. So please, people, consider for the greater good the focus is get rid of the LNP in One Nation. We can't afford them anymore. No, the election hasn't been called yet, Rebecca. Oh, mind you. I wish they'd just put us out of our misery, Yeah, I don't know. Who stood down because of a bottle of wine? Yeah. Who was that? Wasn't that the New South Wales Premier or something? That was a few years ago. They don't do things like that now. They can have crates of wine, and that, it wouldn't count. Yeah. Unfortunately, we have to do everything we can to shift it. And it's going to take a lot, because they're going to throw a lot of bullshit out there. There's going to be a lot of independent parties and they're going to pop up that are going to take votes away from Labor, that are going to try and take votes away so that they don't get the majority. People need to stand firm and go, okay, no matter what, we need to make sure Labor get in, and then we can work on, don't worry, we'll be pushing, if Labor get in, we'll be pushing really hard to make sure that they stand by their no CDC. We'll be expecting them to start taking people off the card. You know what I mean? We'll be expecting them to work out what the mess is with all the contracts and see where it goes. Anastas says Morrison is milking as much as he can. Absolutely. But the disgraceful conduct of the LNP and their members and their absolute contempt for Australians, enough's enough. It's time for them to go. They've racked up $1 trillion worth of debt for all of our kids to pay. Right? They've done the damage there. They're vetoing good projects that are clean green energy in northern Queensland. Keith Pitt vetoed a wind farm costing 250 jobs, costing Queensland $400,000 in cheaper electricity. Right? It's got to be stopped. You know, they're just piling the money into their mates. And their fossil fuel cabinet is running the country. You know, I think we had a coup and no one noticed. Their fossil fuel cabinet, you know. Anyway, I'm going to go. I'll talk to you guys later. All right. See ya.